Welcome to episode 22 of the Communication Air podcast, the community patch notes episode of the pros and cons of games journalism. And we are a day late, I apologize, but Cheesy got me sick somehow.
What? Wait, hold on. I didn't get you sick. If anything, you got me sick because you were sick a day before. I don't know how it happened, but we both ended up getting sick like over the weekend. And so we had to push it back, but it worked out better for our guest anyway. Which Johnny, do you want to interview?
Sure. before we get into it, we have a very special guest, Zanadood. You might know him as the gaming teacher on TikTok. Is that what you go by?
Close enough. I'm here. I'm healthy. I am ready to go. Rearing.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of the listeners have seen you and seen your skits before.
I don't know, dude. I fell off kind of hard over the last year. I've been transitioning my content away from just the skits, though. You can only do that same joke so many times.
Well, it worked out really well for you, and this is the reason why we had this. Well, we actually had this topic specifically for you. Like last week's episode, we were just we BS'd our way through it because we don't know anything about it. So we're like, let's try to get somebody that actually knows a little bit about games journalism and how it works. So I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on it. But before we get into it, let's do some server maintenance. Did I cut him off? Did I cut you off, Zanadood? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Let's do server maintenance.
Listen, folks, we're doing the best we can under the conditions.
I'm on cold medicine right now, right? It's fine.
We got some sleepy time tea. So here we go. Buckle up. Johnny, start us off with some server maintenance.
Yeah, so we don't forget to leave us a review on Spotify and Apple. We have 20 reviews on Apple. We hit that 20 review mark. It's all 5 stars, so that's perfect. And we're at 21 reviews on Spotify. That's fantastic. And you could also follow the show on Spotify, so don't forget to follow. You could subscribe on Apple. I was listening how to build a loyal fan base, so we don't want just one-time listeners. All right, hit that follow button. Put it on repeat. And then also subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on X, Instagram, and Threads if that comes back. And I think that's it. I don't think we had any written reviews.
No written reviews, but you can follow us on Discord too, and that's a way that you can get your comments and questions on these community patch notes episodes.
And we have a Patreon. Don't forget to check out the Patreon.
We do have a Patreon. I think we forgot to plug that last time, but it's still new. We're going to add more to it.
Yeah.
But to start us off on Discord, Scrubicious. Do you want to say it? You're always good at saying the name. Scrubicious says, video game reviews should prioritize objectivity and follow a structured journalistic approach rather than being solely personal opinions. So journalist reviews, much like news reporting, should offer fact-checking, a broad perspective, accountability, and informed sites, making them a superior choice over personal opinions for informed decision-making. As with Johnny's statement on Mortal Kombat 1, I found it good that he let us know how the graphics looked, but this is an opinion someone else might be fine with how it looks. But how well does it play? That said, comparing Mortal Kombat 1 with a similar game can justify the laziness of development. P.S. Keep it up. Really enjoy the concept of the podcast. Just input what the discussion for DLC versus unlockables would be like.
That's a good one. Yeah, I like that. That's very well thought out in the fact that not to go on a whole rant right now, but back in the day, back in the heyday of Game Informer, maybe when GameStop was first coming out, most publications did that system where it was not the reviewer's opinion. We're going off of a scale based on the publication. I don't know if you guys ever saw, I can't remember which website, but they had a bunch of different happy faces and then frowny faces and then angry all the way at the end. And so they literally gave them an emotion rank. But there used to be a more not streamlined, but a more objective process. But now game reviewing is pretty much like severely opinionated, and obviously people follow different reviewers that they like and they respect those opinions. But I do agree with that comment where it seems like we should go back to that, right? We should add more objectivity into it. We should maybe have more people collaborate on reviews than just one person. So just want to say, definitely agree with that point. It makes reading reviews really hard unless you understand the person who's writing the review at today's, current spot.
So do you know if more than one person looks at that review?
Yes. So before I start talking out of my butt here, can I swear on this podcast? Okay, never mind.
Oh, we try not to, but
Okay,
butt is fine. All right,
No,
I'll bleep it out.
Listen, I'm a teacher. Okay, I can censor myself. All right. But before I start talking about all this stuff, I do not traditionally work in gaming journalism, but over the past month and a half, me and a few other people are starting our own gaming publication. So we're looking at all this stuff at how these organizations are run, how are we going to run our organization. And when someone writes a review, it's normally one person writing it, but it goes through a process, right? Where it goes back to the editor sends it back to the writer, then it goes to a content manager. So there's multiple eyes on this, but normally it's that person's review, and they're not really going to change the content of that review unless it's like obscenely bad. They're just going to optimize it for like SEO. They're going to like make sure that there's no weird grammar errors, even though a lot of that stuff still flies through the cracks. But so it is one person's opinion. It goes through this process, but I don't think traditionally anyone's going to be like, maybe don't write that. So it really is who's playing that game and what they write is pretty much what's going to get published.
So I know you were very vocal about the IGN's review of Starfield.
I do not like to go up to bat for billion-dollar corporations on a daily basis. Trust me. I like Bethesda, okay? And I don't think Starfield's as bad as everyone's claiming it to be. And I think people are giving it maybe a little less leeway than they would with other games. I think there is a little bit of perceived bias, but I can't prove it. And again, I don't spend my day arguing with people on Twitter about it like a lot of people do. But specifically the Dan Stapleton review of who was a reviewer for IGN when he reviewed Starfield, it just felt like maybe you shouldn't play Bethesda games, because like a ton of the things he was critiquing, I'm like, that's Bethesda, baby. They're going to have load screens. I do not know what to tell you. They're never going to move off that engine. You can be objective about it, but like so many people just in comparatively, if you look at Gene Park's review from the Washington Post, he was just like, loved it. 10 out of 10. And just to preface, I like Bethesda games, so I like this one too. It's the same formula. It's Fallout in space, basically. So it really is like you're going to get two very different perspectives on a game, even on like a micro issue like whether we should have loading screens in a game or not. So I did have an issue with Dan Stapleton's review. I don't hate him as an individual. I'll never threaten him, but I do think that there were some of those things where that might have just not been a game that he was interested in already, and maybe he drew a straw out of a hat, but he wrote a review that kind of made me seem like, okay, like maybe this game just wasn't for you. And he didn't write that anywhere in his article where it's just like, oh, it's just not for me. I don't like it. He was saying a lot about it. And a lot of like, in my opinion, moot points. Like the person who's buying that game isn't going to care. They know what they're getting into at that point. So that was my little spiel about that particular review. I've read a lot of Starfield reviews, by the way.
I think I had mentioned on the last episode that I actually kind of agreed with the IGN review, because I'm not a big Bethesda fan. I don't play their games very often, and I do think that they have systems in there that are antiquated at this point. Like not having a map for an open world space game is just bizarre to me. Being over encumbered like immediately is super annoying. So I mean, I see where they're coming from. I don't know if it's a 7 out of 10, but I feel like it's not a 10 out of 10.
Oh, I 100% agree. Nothing that you just said I'm going to disagree with. Okay, Bethesda is known for their antiquated systems, but it's just like a formula that people really enjoy, much like Pokemon, where it's like, okay, this isn't really changing. And
no, that game's perfect. 10 out of 10, man. Scarlet and Violet's a perfect game. It runs at 10 FPS. It's fine.
I really enjoyed Scarlet and Violet, but again, we're going back to that topic of like objectivity, and there were things about Dan Stapleton's review that I was like, this guy nailed it, you know what I mean? But then I feel like his overall score didn't really match the tone of his article, where it's like he went into it, you know what I mean? And I feel like he's like, I'm just gonna give a 7. If I give it any lower, people are gonna give me death threats. But if I give it any higher, I'm not gonna get that engagement that we need. So I don't know. I feel like I don't think he's a bad reviewer. He's obviously doing something right if he's been in the industry for this long.
So I feel like maybe we didn't, set you up right, and I interrupted.
Yeah, that was your fault. You went right into the Discord comments. I had this whole thing planned out that I was going to ask him about his top 25 games, and then you just cut me off.
I know. As I was reading that comment, I was like, oh, wait, we talked about this before the show. Look, I don't even know where my mind... I actually had a dream last night that we did the podcast yesterday. And while we were on, doing the podcast, my lights were turned off. My head was down on my desk. Like, I had no idea where I was. And I'm just glad that I'm doing this well. So, Zanadood, as far as like games journalism and your passion for it, why is it something that you started caring about? Like you said earlier that you kind of have transitioned your teacher sketch comedy that you would do on TikTok, and you really have been delving into more of the games journalism side. Why is that?
I grew up in a very large family. My parents remarried, so I was the youngest of 5. We had one gaming console, and I was the youngest. So I watched a lot of video games. I did not get to play a lot growing up because it was always like the older siblings. We would play multiplayer and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like a really big part of like me growing up with games is not playing them, it's reading about them and studying about them. I'd get Game Informer every week. I would study that front to back. Like every word on that page, I would just like absorb it. I'm writing something about this right now, but gaming journalism used to be, and like the gaming journalism industry used to be the only way to engage in video games that wasn't actually playing video games. Before the era of YouTube, before the era of prominent social media, you went on a website and you read about it, and then you went through the forums and you read comments, and you're like, oh, this guy's an idiot. Well, he can't even figure out how to beat Pokemon Silver. Like, there was things that I just really enjoyed about like that community. And I guess one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about it today, because I kind of, like everybody else, I'm get most of my information probably from social media and YouTube nowadays. But I don't like where the industry is headed. I don't like where it's at right now. I think I can go into this later on, but like it does seem like it's just like a race for clicks. Clickbaiting is huge. I mean, YouTubers started it, but gaming journalism will kill it. But clickbaiting, there's just some like shady practices, and now it's just like giant media companies that are like conglomerating it. I bet IGN started off with a wonderful mission, as well as like Kotaku. I could name 10 different sites that kind of are so big right now that they are. They're everywhere, and they're pumping out 10, 15 articles a day. And I just feel like right now, it's definitely quantity, not quality, is a lot of the, priorities of some of these high level executives. I'm never going to blame the journalists because they're not making these decisions. But I do think that the industry has gotten so big that it is now like at its peak, and it's only going to go downhill from here. At least in my opinion, that's why I'm, trying to get into the industry and make some change.
That's really cool. And like just how much you care about it too. You can tell that it's not just somebody who is bashing games journalism, but someone that has a love for it and wants to see it do better.
Yeah, it comes from a place of love, and I've always preferred reading over anything else. I do enjoy a nice video, but reading has always been something I've been very passionate about, and I always try to read. Like, if you ever look up a review, am I the only person that prefers like a written text review? Not review, I'm sorry, like a guide where you're trying to do something in a game. Like, I don't want to have to like pause a YouTube video over and over again to like find this one specific spot. I love a written guide. Like, that is my favorite thing in the world, is when someone does a well-written guide for this very specific problem I have in a game.
Yeah.
There's nothing better.
All right, Johnny, ask him about his top 25.
Okay, yeah. So, was it today? Yeah, it was today. You tweeted your top 25 list. And I gotta say, there's no Mario on here.
I was never a Mario. I did not play Mario. I didn't own an NES. I did play Mario 64 because I had a 64. But again, that was a game that like I watched my siblings play, but I probably played like as a kid. I probably played Mario 64 like a handful of times. But I've watched my brothers beat it. I tried to my top 25. I tried to keep it in many different genres. You notice that there are 0 platformers on there.
So for the top 3 are all roguelikes.
Yeah, you can see I kind of was in a mode where I'm like, all right, here are all my roguelikes, here are all my shooters, here are all my open world games. Because I'm a man of, I like every genre pretty much except platformers. I'll play them, but they're not.
Yeah, I
like,
don't see any platformers on here.
No,
I mean,
I think
so is it in order? Like, is Hades number 1?
no, Hades is number 1 in my heart. Okay, it always will be. But this isn't in any particular order. It's just kind of like a brain dump. I don't think I'd put Halo 3 that low.
List them out for the listeners, Johnny.
Okay. Oh, do you want? I have it up too.
Yeah, you do it.
Okay.
Go for it, Xanadu.
I feel like some of these I'm gonna have to defend. Hades, Enter the Gungeon, Binding of Isaac, Divinity: Original Sin 2, Baldur's Gate 3, taking a weird spin here. Call of Duty: Modern Warfare 2, Super Smash Bros. Melee, Diablo 2. Or no, I don't think that's on the final one. I might have switched that one out.
Yeah, I don't see Diablo 2 on here.
Okay. Slay the Spire, Red Dead Redemption 2, Borderlands 2, Outer Wilds, Inscription, Oblivion, Fallout New Vegas. Did I keep Ghost of Tsushima on there?
I don't see, unless it's that one at the bottom.
I should have kept it in.
No.
Pokemon. I have them at the bottom here. Pokemon Emerald, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Majora's Mask, Mass Effect 2, Halo 3, Return of the Obra Dinn, Portal 2, Citizen Sleeper, and then it's Elden Ring and Star Wars Battlefront 2. I think those are the 2 that I missed.
Yeah, I see it. Well, yeah, I have Elden Ring on here and Battlefront 2 on here.
Yeah. So that's my my very wild picks.
So put Majora's Mask on there.
That was one of the only games that my siblings let me play on the N64. So it's very nostalgic. I just like a good time loop, you know? I like starting the day over again, using all the stuff that you learn. It's not the best Zelda game. I'm not going to go up to bat for that. I know that. And I probably should have put Tears of the Kingdom on that list now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, Elden Ring. It's pretty much the same game.
It is the same thing. I probably enjoyed Tears of the Kingdom more than Elden Ring, though.
I mean, I think it's great. Go ahead, Johnny.
Oh, no. I like how you have a variety of indies and then like your big blockbusters like Modern Warfare 2. I had so many great memories with that game, with the noob tube and the one man army. Yeah. Like that game was just fun to mess around with. Now it's just like
I feel like I can't play Call of Duty anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just taking my sweatshirt off.
So we were saying last week that there's a lot of gaming sites that will do like kind of top 25 lists, and it's funny that you just kind of made one today because it just fits with our conversation. Is that something that gets you upset in games journalism? Is these kind of opinion pieces or lists? Like,
not really. I do kind of look at them more like filler, where it's like, okay, nothing's really breaking. We need someone to put like a feel-good article out there. I think anything that's not like gonna get people to play maybe more games that aren't talked about is always a good thing. But again, if they do like a top 25 list, like no one's disclosing like, this is my personal top 25. Keep that in mind. You know what I mean? It's just like top 25 games of all time.
This is IGN's top 25.
Yeah. And it's just like, I wish they spoke more about the process on how they reached that. It's like, did everyone vote? Did one guy sit in a room and write it down and show it to someone? And it's like, looks good to me. Like, you know, I think being a little bit more transparent about how people reach conclusions is always important. And that's why reviews are helpful. Because people normally are pretty wordy about why they're saying certain things or why they didn't enjoy a game. But when you do a top anything list, it's normally just like the name and then maybe like a short excerpt about what makes that game good. It's like no one needs to know why Red Dead Redemption 2 is good. Okay, we get it. It's a good game. You get to do a lot of stuff. So I don't think I harbor any ill feelings towards them, but I do think that maybe some transparency about where the list came from, who contributed to the list, might make people a little more unease about, taking that as like a fact or a fact of the publication. Are you speaking for yourself or are you speaking for your organization?
Now I want to do one of these lists. Be a
It was
whole
hard.
lot of Mario. Super Mario Bros. 1, 2, 3, World.
I can tell you right now, Xanadude, Red Dead Redemption 2 would not be on Johnny's list.
I honestly, I thought about cutting it because I was like, do I have too many open world games? I'm like, I've only played it twice. I've played some of these games like for 1,000 hours. You know what I mean? Like but I do recognize that I really enjoyed the game, but
I mean, everybody, a lot of people love that game. Baldur's Gate 3 is on here. I bought that game and I've yet to load it up.
It's a time investment that I only could play it because I had summer break. And I like literally can't get myself to play it during the school year because not only does it take like 3 minutes to load the game on my computer, but after that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do 20 minutes. No, it's like a game that you have to put like several hours into at a time to like really get anything out of it.
Oh yeah, that does not sound like something that I would enjoy.
No, I like to hop in, hop out, hop in, hop
That's
out.
why I like roguelikes. Like Hades was fantastic.
Yeah.
Those runs are 30 minutes long, maybe. And Binding of Isaac's also fantastic. All the roguelikes.
Yeah, I'm a huge. It's probably my favorite genre of game is roguelike. I've been playing Enter the Gungeon again on my trusty little Switch here. I play like 1 or 2 runs a night before bed, and it's great.
Do you play Splatoon? Or like, are you excited for Side Order?
I don't, and I don't take this as any offense, but my students go nuts for Splatoon, to the point where every Wednesday we all have a bunch of switches after school. We connect them to the TVs in my room, and I just let them go ham on Splatoon, and they love it.
I don't take offense to that at all. Like I wish I was playing with them.
I play with them. I'm probably not going to buy the game. I don't. My Switch is for roguelikes. That's pretty much all I do on it. Because I don't ever connect it to my TV. I love my Switch, but I should check out Splatoon. I feel
he asked that because the DLC is going to be a roguelike.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the best time to hop into it now. But the problem is Nintendo games never go on sale. So like, if I'm not
get the vouchers,
I know I get the vouchers, but. I actually might have one left over because I think I got the 2-pack when I bought Tears of the Kingdom. I'll have to check. I don't check my Nintendo account nearly as much as I should.
Yeah, so we always like we're Nintendo focused mostly, and then like a lot of the guests that we've had on are Nintendo focused as well. So you might be the first like non-Nintendo focused person we've had on so far.
I could name like 3 Nintendo IPs off my bat that like I genuinely enjoy, and that's nothing against Nintendo. It's just I was like an Xbox kid. I don't know how to like. I actually had a GameCube, but Nintendo for me was always like party games. Like I'm gonna play with my friends. Like I'm gonna play like Super Smash Brothers, or I'm gonna play Mario Kart and stuff like that. I never got super into a lot of like the maybe single player or multiplayer experiences that they have, at least in recent years.
Well, I mean, with the way that you grew up, it makes sense that was Xbox your first console that you actually got to like play?
PS2 was probably the first one that like, okay, now my brothers are older and like they're doing stuff after school and now I have time to play. So it was probably the PS2 is the first one like I really dived in on.
Nice. No Less Guy hit us up in Discord with a lot of great information. Too much for the show, but I added in one of the things that they did talk about was infographics and how that's been a big thing on social media, is that there's no need for really like articles anymore when you just have an infographic that tells you everything that's going to be in the game or the DLC or whatever it is. That's always helpful. But they said another big hit to gaming journalism is the Medium. I listen to NPC for all my Nintendo news, kind of funny games for other games. They have personalities that I relate to that gets me into a game or not. Cheesy does an excellent job of updating me on Splatoon information while in a humble and entertaining fashion. If something is Tim Geddes' game, I know it's most likely a game I would enjoy as well. Why should I read an article from someone else when I am getting what I need? And I understand like where they're getting at, but like Tim Geddes was also writing articles. So at like some point, you did read or listen to what they were putting out, and that is how you become familiar with them. But I also understand, like, I don't know this person, so why am I going to listen to their opinion?
I think this is not an issue that's just facing gaming journalism. Journalism as a whole, print is just not as exciting or intuitive to access as video or audio formats. Where, why would I read an article when I can listen to this podcast on a walk, with my dog, and I'm out and about, but I'm still getting the same information. So that's why you see IGN, Kotaku, GameSpot, Game Informer, all these other, they all have other types of format, right? They have a YouTube channel. IGN is a very successful YouTube channel. They have audio. They have PowerCast. Sorry, I forgot the word for podcasts for a second. They have podcasts, and they have all these things. But me personally, I'm not gonna go to a traditional game publication to listen to their podcast or watch their YouTube video. I'm gonna go to a content creator or someone that I already kind of am familiar with, or I can put a face to a name. Not like this giant media conglomerate and like, oh, hopefully the host is, someone I recognize. So definitely an issue that's plaguing the industry, and not just the gaming journalism industry. But I agree with the comment. Like they need to offer more. And I think what they do currently is the only reason why some of these websites are still relevant is because of guides, is because of reviews, and because of like interactive maps are huge right now. Like Tears of the Kingdom, if you have like, where are all the Korok seeds? Like, I could only imagine how much web traffic, like, if you make that interactive map and host on your website, like,
Yeah.
people bookmark. When I was doing the Tears of the Kingdom, and I didn't 100% everything, but like, I would look at that map every single day, and I couldn't just screenshot it because there's like 1,000 things on the map. I need to be able to, uncheck some boxes to actually figure out. And yes, I use maps and guides for Tears of the Kingdom. I don't have that much time.
Wow,
but
fake gamer.
Yeah, but I try to not look up as much as possible. But like, if I can't find something, like, eventually I value my own time, and I'm going to be like, okay, I'm taking the L on this one. But so I think that they are trying to transition, but I don't think it's going to be enough, because I do think some people have lost trust in traditional gaming publications, or I think just people want to support smaller organizations or smaller creators instead of being like, why would I subscribe to IGN's Patreon? Like, don't they make enough money? Why don't I just subscribe to, this Patreon for this podcast? And I know exactly what that money's going to. It's to people who are hosting a, creative show that's in a different format than just like, here's the news this week. So I do think that they have to make those changes. And, a lot of sites are scaling back on, traditional printing.
I mean, we kind of talked about it last week, and how you think that people would want their information from these big sites and outlets versus a content creator that is just talking about the game because they love it, but not necessarily because they are in that profession.
I think there has been too many incidents of gaming journalists maybe not behaving in a particular professional way that people are expecting of gaming journalism. I have some, just to rattle a few off, just because I'm looking at a thing that I was going to write a long time ago. You ever watch Polygon, the 2016 Doom Eternal teaser? A guy who played the game on like a live stream, they published this. He couldn't run and shoot at the same time. I don't know if he didn't know that he could, but people ate that guy up. Like, why would I get my gaming knowledge from a guy who apparently can't play a regular first person shooter? And it turns out that guy like hadn't eaten that whole day, or like, what I mean? The situation that led to that happen was unfortunate, because the guy knows how to play video games. But what they posted was basically like, this guy doesn't know how to play video games. The Cuphead incident. Do we all remember the guy who couldn't get past the tutorial?
Couldn't get past the tutorial? Yeah.
Yeah. Why would you get your gaming? Why would I look up a review from that guy if he can't get past the Cuphead tutorial? And again, these are very isolated segments. I'm not saying that gaming journalists can't play games, although that seems to be a sentiment that a lot of consumers of gaming media have, that gaming journalists are, maybe older, maybe they don't understand what's happening in the industry, or maybe they don't play enough video games. There's like a ton of things that people have maybe seen to lead to a little bit of distrust in the industry. Dorito Gate is another one where Jeff Keighley was doing the weird thing. He was like promoting some Mountain Dew Dorito collaboration, but didn't like disclose it, and like it was very obviously like an ad. And this was like years ago, like 8 years ago at this point. But you know, people still reference Gamergate in 2023. So there's a lot of incidents in the media that I feel like are probably blown out of proportion. But you remember what you see, and these all of these things went viral. You know, this guy who wrote a really well thought out article on, you know, the nuances between Starfield and Cyberpunk or something, you know, maybe that's not, no one's going to remember that. They're going to remember the guy who couldn't play games well and was made fun of relentlessly for like years.
I do remember, I mean, this might not be a similar situation, but there was the one guy that wrote for Nintendo, I think his name Phil something. He stole
yes.
the footage, or he stole a review of Dead Cells from a content creator.
Boomstick.
Yeah.
Boomstick. So,
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
and he got like, you know, I think he's still he got fired and dragged through the mud, but he's still making content like separately, not
Yeah.
for IGN. But yeah, there are things that are just like
I think
they stick in your head.
AI is a big thing that people are worried about right now, and you know there already are gaming sites that are doing AI scraping. I did a TikTok about this the other day, but you know, why does every single gaming news site, and maybe they're not the biggest news sites, the ones I put in the video are pretty smaller, but they all have the same exact headline and the same article, almost word for word. You know, why would I want to engage in that content when I can, you know, watch my favorite YouTuber? You know, I already know him. I already kind of trust his opinion. Why wouldn't I go to him? There's a bunch of other examples. You know, do we all know who Jason Schreier is? He's kind of so he writes for Bloomberg right now. I love Jason Schreier. I do think he's doing a really good thing in the industry. His books are really good. Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, I think, is the latest one. It's about like crunch in the gaming industry. But people will still tag him on Twitter or X. I don't know which one we're calling it. That he apparently leaked Fallout 4 because depending on your definition of leak, that he did, because there was people spreading so much misinformation out there, and he literally just said, well, Fallout 4 is going to be set in Boston, so like let's calm it down. And he had insider information, and then people are, you know, still to this day will tag him and be like, or use that to try to discredit him, maybe, you know, reasonably or not, but you know, people just for whatever reason have these very, very strong opinions about the industry and gaming journalists, and not a lot of them are positive.
Through your studies, I mean, have you looked at how they get hired? Like, is that something that's ever been crossed? Because like you would mention, you know, maybe they're not good at gaming, and that could be true, but they could be a really great journalist, and that's the reason why they got hired, not so much to play the game, but also in that sense, you need to be able to play the game if you're going to review it.
Yeah.
And if you have somebody else playing the game, that's not your own personal experience with it.
Yeah, I think most of these people, I'm going to say, I think all of these people get hired because they're good writers and they're good at writing about media. I don't think anyone's hired because they're really good at the game. I've watched, you know, some of these people stream, and maybe I'll poke around in. We're not talking about, you know, cutting edge gameplay here. But you know, a standard process to get hired at like a news site for gaming publication would either be, there's two options. You either, one, you just apply to a job, they look at your portfolio, you get hired, or two, you are, you know, a contributing member. Like you could send in pitches, or sometimes these sites will ask people to write up articles. You know, they'll give you how much they're going to pay you. You're basically like a contractor or freelancer at that point, but you know, you pitch articles to sites. Maybe you pitch the same article to a bunch of different sites and see which ones picks it. And then maybe you do that a few times, and then some, you know, and then they could bring you on full time. So all of these people are getting picked because they're good writers. None of them are getting picked because of their game expertise. And hopefully they have both, but I think more so they're looking at, you know, the writing side of things and not like the actual gameplay. I think every publication just hopes that the journalists that they send to events and do live streams with will just not embarrass them in a way that has been in the past. And you know what? I don't think that they care as much as we do, because IGN, I can't remember if it was the guy from IGN, whoever did the Cuphead incident. I bet that got a lot of clicks. I bet they put that up on their YouTube. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I bet they used those numbers in some meeting being like, we got to charge advertisers more because look at this. It doesn't matter that half the comments say kill yourself. It just matters that we have all this engagement and all these clicks. Like, do you see these metrics? So I think that's really what at the end of the day they care about.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about clickbaiting and engagement, and how they are also competing with content creators.
Yeah.
They're trying to get those same clicks. Like if there's a content creator making a Cuphead tutorial out there and they're just like masterful at the game, and then you could just rag on this guy that doesn't know how to double jump or whatever.
Yeah. And I think that as a content creator, I think all of us can agree that our word carries a lot less weight than like a structured organization that's been in the industry for like 25 years. You know what I mean? Like me saying some stupid hot take on TikTok, which I do constantly because I love those metrics, baby. I love those numbers. When they go up, I get happy.
Dopamine,
again,
man. Dopamine.
Yeah. But again, no one's looking to me as like a paragon of like professionalism. No one's looking at me like, oh, this guy who makes 2 TikToks a day as his side job. Like, yeah, I'm not going to take it as seriously. And yeah, I may engage in some practices that I know are not outright malicious, but they could be considered manipulative. I mean, YouTubers do it every single day. Like they have the crazy thumbnails where it's like, I got burned alive. And then the video is him talking about, something completely different, but people are going to click on it. And I think it just seems shadier, and it seems like more of an issue when like an organization does it. Like that, this has gone through many people at this point, to approve this. It seems a little bit more malicious when it's coming from like air quotes, reputable gaming source, as opposed to, some guy on the internet who just, maybe just has a really strong opinion of something that's wrong.
I mean, like, I can kind of understand where they're coming from though, because that doesn't sound as much fun.
Yeah. If you can't beat them, you got to join them,
Right.
But how far can we take it?
Yeah.
I'm going to toot my own horn again about this. I'm going to, until the day I die, I'm going to talk about how my tweet got into an IGN article. But they drove the Mortal Kombat 1 on Nintendo Switch into the ground. Like, there was article after article after article, video after video after video about how bad Mortal Kombat 1 looks on the Switch. And, they said, they had clickbaity titles about how eyes are popping out of their heads. And it's like, yeah, so they saw one of their things did well, like one of their articles did well. And then they're just like, all right, we're going to just keep writing the same article, keep doing the same video, because I did the same thing. I made like 10 videos about the same topic because it got engagement.
But yeah, I mean, and that's awesome, because for a content creator, you found something, you're riding that wave. But there's a face to a name. You know what I mean? If you ride that out and you're beating up on this game so much that people start to get mad, or you know what I mean, or they think you're overdoing it, they can put a face to the name and be like, John Ebo, man, this has gone too far. You got to give it up. And maybe eventually you'll listen. But when it's an organization doing that, it's just like, oh, IGN as a whole, like they keep, kicking Mortal Kombat while it's down. Why won't they give it a break? It's like, that's an organization that has several hundred people in it. You know what I mean? Like, who and what is making that happen? Where are those decisions being made? I know that it's you cooking something up in your room being like, damn, that did some good numbers. Let me just, we talked about this on Twitter though. It's just like, let me just make that one a little bit longer than a minute. And I get a nice little paycheck.
I did. I made $700.
Yes. That is complete. How much money do you think IGN made off of it?
Yeah, I know, exactly.
They are operating on a scale that when they do it, it almost, seems malicious, as opposed to when you do it, it's just like, okay, I don't like this guy's opinion. I can move on with my day. It's like, okay, this organization though, like, can't they get a rest? Like, they're going to ask for a review code for the next Mortal Kombat, right? Like, I don't think you're going to get a review code, John, about it, but you're fine with that because you'll pay $70 for the game and then make another video.
That was an investment. That was an investment. That's what that was.
And it's a write-off, dude. Since you made the content out of it, like you're playing a smart game. They're playing a probably smarter, but probably long-term, but probably more destructive game, in my opinion. Like the Starfield reviews, like, oh my God, IGN just could not stop. They could not stop publishing articles about Starfield. And I'm like, I don't like to go up to bat for billion organizations, but at some point I'm just like, just let it go, guys. Just let it go. Move on.
There's other games.
But it was getting engagement. You can tell it because it's getting engagement from Xbox fanboys who are like, oh, Starfield's perfect. 10 out of 10. You're wrong. We all know that. Okay, it's not. And then you get the Sony people who are like, oh, crap. Yes, I'm so happy that this game is crap. And then, unfortunately, I never thought I'd say this. I think the Nintendo fan base is the most non-toxic out of the big three consoles.
Whoa.
We're perfect. There's nothing.
not perfect, but I don't think because Nintendo's operating in a different market entirely.
Yeah.
They're operating in the handheld market, which has zero competition besides the Steam Deck, but again, I don't contribute.
It has less than zero competition.
Yeah. So they're just like, we're over here chilling. We're getting good games. We got Tears of the Kingdom. We're eating. We got Super Mario Wonder coming out. We're eating good. And you have Sony and Xbox fanboys literally stabbing each other on Twitter. And they're all clicking the articles either to comment or to read and see if their opinion is being reinforced. And I could go on and on about this, but publications know about the console wars, and they frame a lot of stuff in a way that will drive engagement and make people either more into the console that they're in and try to defend it, or like defend their purchase and their decision to be in that ecosystem, or attack the other one. Those people are stupid because they don't have Xbox. So I think that's a bigger issue, but I'm gonna leave it at that.
Johnny, you want to read the next comment?
So speaking of an Xbox fanboy and Starfield fanboy, Jeff Troidvania, I find a wild concept that a 7 out of 10 score is bad. I've played plenty of games that I've absolutely loved that were 7 out of 10 games. Games that objectively have problems but were otherwise enjoyable. It's fair to be critical of games, and it's necessary to be critical of games on the out first subject. I've seen articles where journalists literally wrote that they didn't complete the game and they'll go back and finish it after. Come on.
So we have over time, this has been well talked about on Twitter and stuff, but so this isn't a novel concept that I'm inventing right now. We have changed the way that we review games. We have changed the way that we perceive reviews. A 10 out of 10, perfect. 9 out of 10, that's a really good game. An 8 out of 10, that's a great game. A 7 out of 10 is an average game. A 6 out of 10 is basically unplayable.
I was thinking 7 out of 10 is like basically unplayable.
Yeah, anything under than a 5, dead in the water.
I think you can say that about like Rotten Tomatoes too.
Yes. It's all media, because review bombing aside, all media, as we try to rate it, it's a race to the top, and the farther away from the top you are, the worse it is now, even if it's a 7. I think that you can totally justify the fact that Starfield is a 7. I have no issues with that. Just like I have no issues with some people that rated it a 10. But I do think that there is an issue in how we perceive games and how games are being reviewed, where it is, if it's not a 8, 9, or 10, why bother playing it? Like there's no point. I'm not saying that's true, because some of my favorite games are not critically acclaimed, but I just think that's a way people view it, because there's so much more stuff out now than there used to be. Think about this year alone. Like, I don't have time to play 8s. Are you kidding me? Like in this economy, like I gotta play 9s and 10s. That's it, because I can only play so many games in a year. I can only afford so many games in the year. So people are more likely to be frugal with their purchases about games, I think, now, and people that make purchases based off reviews already are kind of, if you want to play the game. But if you were going to make a decision based on a review, you're going to look for those 2 high numbers. You're going to look for a 9 or a 10. And if it's not that, it could probably wait until it's on sale or something like that.
And the thing about Starfield is it's on Game Pass. So, that is a good thing for Game Pass, but honestly, the games that have been released on it recently have not been that great, so people might just pass on them anyway.
Yeah, Game Pass has sorry, not to cut you off. Game Pass has a very particular issue that I think is an episode for another day.
Well, let us know, and we'll have you back on.
I would love to. Actually, there's a pretty big conflict of interest there. I don't know if I could go on record to say everything that I dislike about Game Pass because I am a Xbox
you're an
ambassador.
Xbox. Oh crap!
Yeah,
I think I might have actually signed up for that at one point. I might be technically an ambassador.
It's there's like a little Discord. Sometimes they send me some stuff, so I try not to get on Xbox's bad sides. I'm very objective with the games that I play.
Wait, you got to work with
Xbox.
Starfield, didn't you?
I did. I made a video for Starfield, and it did okay. I did get a lot of angry comments though. Again, from people that think I'm like shilling or like, oh, he's. I had people on some of my videos being like, oh, this guy hates Starfield. He hasn't made any videos about it. And then I've had people be like, this guy only talks about Starfield. I'm like, what are you looking at? What are you reading right now? What are you watching? Because I haven't made any videos because I was working on a promo video. So you don't know my opinion about it yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've done some promo videos recently, and they're for games that are like I would never play them.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I mean, I would for like Starfield, but like I did like a mobile game, and immediately got called a shill because
I hate doing mobile game ads. I've done it before. I'm working on one right now. It was the worst situation to be in because the game normally is not fun, and it's normally like you're gonna have people that instantly are like, "Oh, I can't believe you're pushing this." It's like, dog, do you want me to get paid or not? Do you want me to keep doing this?
No. Like, you want me to keep making content? If you want me to keep making content, like I need deals like this, or I need somebody to notice me, which my numbers aren't high enough to get noticed yet. So like, come on.
All right, but in that same sense, like, are you both being honest about your experience with it, or is it just that
they tell you what to say?
For the most part, but I think you can.
It's not a review. Like I haven't done a paid review. I did an ad.
Mm-hmm.
So I say like what they tell me to say. Like these are the features in the game. This is what you can do in the game. But I don't give a review of the game.
Yeah, I would say the same. In mobile game ads specifically, every time I've done one, they give me a giant script. They're like, try to fit this in a 60-second video. I'm like, there's no way.
And then they have like 10 edits when they send it back. It's like, oh, come on, man.
I had to adjust my rates because I'm like, for mobile game ads, I charge like $100 more. I'm like, I literally need it. But for my Starfield video, it was literally just like a weird little skit I made. Again, that you kind of lose some of your, if you ever did like a paid review, I think you'd lose some of your professional credit, the small amount of professional credibility I have. I think it would be hard to actually review games if people knew that, oh well, if you give him a bunch of money, he's just going to say something nice.
Right.
And I think we actually did talk about that sometimes people perceive these outlets as to getting paid off to give a decent review or, to work with that company again.
Yeah, people definitely perceive that, but like if you looked at IGN's website, IGN might still have that Starfield banners up. Like the whole website was Starfield themed for like a month. I don't want to even know the check that Bethesda wrote to IGN to have that for launch. But then obviously they're not paid off because they gave them a 7. You know what I mean? Like gaming publications are a lot of things, but I don't think there's a perceived bias towards platforms or towards games. Again, it is just one man's opinion. It is not the opinion of the organization, or not man. Okay, it is one person's opinion because I want to clarify my language on that.
Interesting that you bring that up because the name's Jer says the crowd that demands I want unbiased reviews is such a strange sentiment to have. A review is fundamentally someone's personal opinion, so there's literally no such thing as an unbiased review. Also, the amount of weight people give to the numerical score is so silly. That's the main reason I don't ever give out scores or ratings and instead just say what I like and don't like. I would hope that people can use my thoughts to help them determine if this game is right for them and not some end-all be-all number.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's biased reviews or that there's not biased reviews?
I think the commenter brought up a very good point. You are going to come into that game. If I'm reviewing Mario Wonder, right? Mm-hmm. I'm reviewing that game. I'm going to give you my honest thoughts. I don't like Mario games that much. You know what I mean? I already have a preconceived bias about what the gameplay loop is going to be like. Maybe it blows me away and I'm absolutely stunned. And maybe our review reflects that. But more likely it's going to be, it's a good platformer, guys. If you like that kind of thing. I personally didn't. I'm giving it an 8. but it could be somebody else's 10. So it's going to be, and games are an art form. And how do you, talk about an art form without talking about the emotions that it invokes and how you resonate with it and how much you enjoy it? You know what I mean? Like, you can't look at art as objectively as I think most people want to. People want people to go into a video game and be like, be objective as possible. It's like, what if I just don't like Soulsborne games? You know what I mean? Like, I can go into Lies of P as objective as possible, but if I get smacked around by this boss for 2 hours and I don't particularly enjoy the challenge of that, I probably shouldn't be reviewing the game, but maybe I have to.
Have you played Lies of P?
I have.
I know Elden Ring's on your top 25.
I notice how no other Dark Souls games are on my top 25 because I don't particularly enjoy the genre. We all have jobs, okay? And at the end of the day, I want to play a game where I feel like I'm winning, I am powerful, I am in charge of the situation around me. Roguelikes give that to me a lot. So at the end of the day, no, I don't want to play a game where I'm just going to get smacked around by a boss 20 times. I think Lies of P is a good game, but I haven't gotten too far into it because of that.
I love Soulsborne games. Elden Ring's one of my favorite games. Bloodborne is actually probably my second favorite game.
I should have put Bloodborne on my list because I played it this summer. It was 10 out of 10. Tremendous. I can't believe I forgot it.
It's phenomenal. Lies of P has a lot of aesthetics similar to Bloodborne. I don't think the gameplay is as similar as I want it to be. I feel like the blocking mechanic, I just don't understand. But last night I was playing for 2 hours. One boss, couldn't beat it. Yeah. So that's just 2 hours wasted.
Yeah, and some people would say that that's 2 hours that they thoroughly enjoy and they're getting better at the game, and that's what they get out of video games. I don't understand those people, but those people exist, okay? Because this Dark Souls franchise is huge. People love those games, and that's what they love about it. But yeah, side note, if I have to read another article that says Lies of P is like Bloodborne,
I was just going to bring that up.
What about if it's like Bloodborne and Sekiro put together,
That's doubly wrong. I have no issue if that's like something that they want to talk about in the article. That should not be your headline. I think that's doing a disservice to the game Lies of P.
Get ready. Lords of the Fallen comes out in a couple weeks. It's going to happen again.
Yeah, I bet. So that's my thought on that. I think you can compare those games because you're obviously coming to a game that has, a frame of reference. Everyone knows what Bloodborne is, hopefully. But
Cheesy
I do think it's I do think it's you know what it is. I played it for the first time this year, so I can't really talk any crap. But I do think it's doing the game that you're reviewing a disservice to be like, it's like Bloodborne. It's not. It's actually not. The blocking system is much different.
Yeah, it's much different.
They want you to block instead of dodge. They don't have, Lies of P doesn't have like iframes as like the Dark Souls combat
that means
does,
invincibility frames. Yeah. Cheesy, if you didn't know.
Oh, got it. Yeah, got it.
So when you
get
dodge,
good scrub.
When you dodge in Dark Souls or any of those games, there's a small moment of invincibility. No matter where you dodge, you could dodge towards the enemy and like go through them. You're still invincible. Lies of P isn't like that. It is a little more immersion based than Lies of P, in my opinion, where I can't just dodge through this guy's legs real quick.
You dodge through a boss and you just don't get hit. Yeah, no,
it's frustrating though because so many people go to that game with the frame of reference now because it's like, oh, this guy said it's like Bloodborne. It's not. It looks like Bloodborne. It doesn't play like Bloodborne.
Right. So you made that tweet, and I was actually going to bring that up. How would you put it? Like, what would your headline be for it?
I would say Lies of P is a beautiful puppet masterpiece or something like that, where I'm framing the context of the game in a way that, I'm interested in this. And then at some point in that article, I could reference how I think the world building and the lore and like the general gloominess is very reminiscent of Bloodborne. But that's not what I'm going to lead with. People are just doing that because they know people are frothing at the mouth for Bloodborne news. Like,
well, yeah, and it's catchy, right? Like
it is catchy.
Even from
but it's also it's a Pinocchio game, so you could be like, Lies of P is a gritty take on a classic Pinocchio tale or something.
Yeah, exactly, and that might not be the most exciting. It might not get you the most clicks, but you're not playing on the emotions of people who desperately want Bloodborne news or a game that's going to, emulate Bloodborne for them. Because I don't think you're going to get that in Lies of P. I think Bloodborne is very different and very special to a lot of people. in a way that like Lies of P is a very good, well-made game, but like the lore and like the, general atmosphere is a little different. So you might not resonate it with the same way that you resonated with Bloodborne.
I am struggling a bit just because of the gameplay of it.
Yeah,
I love the aesthetic.
And that's the thing. The gameplay is not fundamentally different. It follows a lot of the same things where it's like, oh, this is my right, these are my equipments and stuff. And Lies of P actually expands on the Souls format of like what you can equip at once and what they things do. But like the general combat is like not vastly different, but like it's all about dodging in Dark Souls game. It's all about dodge rolling in Dark Souls games. And this, it's like they really want you to block. Actually, like blocking isn't as hard, like as bad as it is in Bloodborne and Elden Ring, where if you're blocked, you're still going to take a pretty good chunk of damage. You're going to lose out in your endurance. But like Lies of P, they kind of want you to block stuff or parry. Where I played Elden Ring, I don't think I parried a single attack once. I literally beat that game without parrying once.
Yeah, Elden Ring is about dodging. Bloodborne is more about being aggressive. You know, because if you get hit, you can still get your health back. So it's different. But yeah, Lies of P. It's on Game Pass, so if you have Game Pass, check it out.
Yeah, I got a it's a good game. I would check it out, honestly. If you like Soulsborne games. If you don't, I don't know why you do that to yourself.
So this next one is a long one, but I do enjoy it because it's talking about me a lot, and I like to talk about me. It's from DVD Collector. It says, when it comes down to it, I'm going to buy what I'm going to buy. My video game news comes from you guys and the Powercast. So shout out, we keep referencing NPC. It's Nintendo Powercast. Check out the Nintendo Powercast where me and Cheesy are both on there. For the most part, you four and I have the same taste in games, and that is what I would get. That is what will get me to buy stuff more than I would normally buy. Like Vampire Survivors, wouldn't have even looked at it, but John talked it up, and I trust his opinion, so I've been playing it nonstop. I'm older than Josh. Yes, that's possible. I've been at this gaming thing for a long time, so I know what I'm going to like. I'm also a Nintendo fanboy. I will always buy first-party Nintendo games and even overpay for them. Even if John's trashing a Kirby game, I'm going to play it, and so is he. But as far as reviewing goes, I don't care if it gets a low score or a high score. I haven't read a video game piece since Nintendo Power stopped. I'd rather watch or listen to like-minded people, and you guys are always honest. I know John likes to joke and give games hell, and that's part of the appeal of the shows like this and the Powercast. I also play PlayStation, and to be honest, you guys give enough info on bigger games for other systems for me. I always feel like written reviews are given scores based on if the game was free or if the writer, and that keeps... free or not for the writer. Okay. That keeps me away from them. Great show, maybe best topic yet. Keep up the great work, peeps. Oh, and Super Mario Bros. 3 for the win. It's close, but it's just better.
Two things. I do think that it's important to disclose whether or not you got an item for free or not, especially, as the age of influencer. That has never changed my opinion on whether or not I like a game, though. And every reviewer for YouTube channels, TikTok, and traditional gaming media, they're not paying for it. They're getting that from some sort of connection or the company itself. And then second, I think we talked about this earlier, but people look to you guys for advice on games because they've listened to your content. They understand what games you enjoy. They understand the kind of how you're framing the games. You guys are all a little bit older. You're not like Gen Z, so maybe they can resonate with that.
Wow,
as opposed
that's
to
a burn.
a lot of new, yeah, okay, a lot of new things that come out. But that's something that you just don't get in traditional gaming media unless you're so in tune, right? I don't want to use Dan Stapleton's name again. So I'm going to use Gene Park as an example. He writes for the Washington Post. Mm-hmm. If I have read every single Gene Park review, I'm going to be as tuned in to his tastes, what he likes, and how that resonates with me, just like I would with an audio podcast or my favorite YouTuber. But the problem is that like they can only write so much, they can only review so much, and sometimes I just don't care about that game, so I'm not going to read it. And that ends up being like, I've only read a handful of his articles. I don't really know his whole taste yet. I haven't really nailed it down. It's so much more easier. It's so much easier, and it's so much more accessible to listen to audio or video. So that's why people are going to turn to those people as like their frame of reference when it comes to games. That's why YouTubers are dominating the industry as far as like reviewing and, you know, guide content and a lot of that stuff, because it's just easier to put a face to a name. It's people that they've known throughout the years. It's all been on the same, you know, website. What happens when your favorite writer at IGN decides that he's going to, you know, go to a different website? Like, are you loyal to IGN? Are you loyal to that writer? Like, you know, are you
Do
going
you
to
even
still
know?
interact with
Like, do you even know
Yeah.
when the writer leaves? That's
Yeah, unless you follow them on Twitter, unless you're like really tuned into what they're posting on their own private social media, like who has the time to, like, you know, track their favorite writer when you can just go on YouTube and you know that guy's going to be there every single time and you already know what he likes. Maybe you don't agree with everything, but again, it's just much more accessible the way that it's set up to get advice and, you know, reviews and game recommendations from social media and, you know, YouTube and stuff like that.
a very important point in this post is about Vampire Survivors.
God, here we go.
So they just announced there's new content coming. So be on the lookout, DVD collector. It's coming out. I don't know when, but soon.
Aren't they making like a show or something too? Isn't there like
Oh,
something else
whoa.
going on with that?
Oh, are
I
they?
could be lying. Yeah,
Have you
there's
played
something
it?
else
You're
that-
big into roguelites.
Yes, I've played it. I had to delete it off my phone because I would get done teaching a class and I would go on my prep period and I'm like, I'm gonna do all this lesson planning, like I'm gonna make all these copies, I'm gonna do all this grading, and then I'll be like, but first I have an hour, you know, so I'm just gonna do a quick Vampire Survivors run,
It's only 30
real
minutes.
quick. I know it's only 30 minutes until I mess up and I'm like, dang, I gotta start over, you know. So that game is probably the most addicting thing I've ever had in my life. Like at this point, I was like so into Vampire Survivors for a long time. I will hop back into it, but I have it on my computer now so that like if I'm gonna play it, I have to sit down and actually play it. Mobile games,
It's on the Switch, by the way.
I know it's on this. I can't buy it for the third time. Mobile games.
It's only $5. It's only
are
$5.
Yeah, are so excited. That's how they made all their money. It's only $5. It's just so accessible. It's such a good game.
Yeah, there's
if you like that game, you should check out Brotato as well. That's a fantastic.
Oh yes, I've played Potato.
I was gonna say there's a Twitter account that's like saved you a click or something that will read the article for you basically and just summarize it, so you're not just reading the headline, and it will actually say what the article was saying. But somebody mentioned that Vampire Survivor is getting online, and the developer said that it's happening soon. But if you actually read the article, it's like, yeah, this is something that we want to happen, but it's going to be extremely difficult to make it happen.
Yeah.
And so like the account was like, yeah, online's going to happen, but not soon.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the
And
official Vampire Survivors account said that they're releasing content like soon. It just says soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
isn't it just one guy? He's probably brought on more people, but wasn't like the base game developed by just like one person or something? I don't think it was a big team.
Probably. I mean, it doesn't seem
like.
like it would be developed by a big
No.
team.
But the whole saved you a click thing, like that's awesome because like there's just who wants to sift through all the garbage out there? You know what I mean? Like who wants to sift through this clickbait title to make sure that it's actually going to talk about what they did, you know? So having some way of like fact checking or, you know, engaging in the article that isn't actually clicking on it and reading it is helpful for a lot of people, and myself included, because that's what turns me off from gaming journalism. That's what makes me not want to read random articles I've never heard about from people I've never heard about, because like, you know, maybe like 7 out of 10 times I click on the article, I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, why did you choose this title? This was clearly just clickbait, and I respect you less now, and I don't want to read anything else that you post. And you kind of feel burned. Like you kind of feel like, sometimes, you know, you watch a TikTok where you think it's going to be helpful and it's just like, oh, I just wasted 35 seconds. Oh, yeah. But if you read an article and it's a long one, you're like, oh, I just wasted like 4 minutes. You know, it's the scalability of that. Time is money.
Like, would it help if the writer was more in front of the camera? Because I can think of some IGN reviewers or who used to be reviewers that would put themselves out in front, and you had like a personality that you can put with the article, or I guess most of the time they were like doing the review as they were making the video.
Yeah, and I think yes, that is super helpful. And that's why people love YouTubers, because that's what YouTubers do, is
Mhm.
putting
Yeah.
it in the video format. You know who it's going to be every time. Like, I do think having a face for an organization is incredibly helpful, because at least you have someone to like direct your hate towards.
Oof.
No, but or direct your praise. Like, even if,
Yeah.
like, oh, IGN, you crushed it. Like, no one wants to say that. Like, you're going to be like, oh, this guy at IGN crushed it. Like, look at what he's doing in this video.
Mhm.
I think it just, putting a face to a name is going to be more, help people get more related to it, instead of just like, oh, this giant $1 billion media conglomerate. Like, you guys really crushed this one. No one wants to do that. So
Right.
they
Right.
it just needs to be more relatable to the average consumer, because right now it's not.
Yeah. I think Frisch52 said, I don't think I've ever looked at reviews, especially from big name sites. I usually ask a friend who's played a game if I'm on the fence. And I think that's for a lot of people, like you just go off of like your friend's opinion, or at least that's how it used to be. You would just go on the playground and ask, what your friends were playing, and maybe they would talk about it, and then you would be like, I want to buy that game. Do you think that's changed much, or are we still relying on sites for what we buy?
I think I've always wondered how many people, I would love to see like the metrics of these websites about how many people actually read reviews. And then like the second metric of like, did that review affect how you're purchasing, power?
Mhm.
Because like 90%, probably even higher, 90% of the people who play video games are never going to touch a gaming news website. They just don't care
Or
enough.
just like social media, like we've
Yeah.
talked about that a lot too, that we're in a bubble, so we know everything that's kind of happening, or at least a little bit of what's happening in the gaming industry. But like, yeah, a lot of people don't even know like what is happening with, I don't know, whatever backlash or what's trending.
Yeah. And I think most people are like that, where they're just never going to engage in that content because they don't need to. They're going to get their gaming recommendations from their friends, or they're going to buy the next franchise, what they love. Do you think people who love Resident Evil are going on IGN or Kotaku being like, man, I hope this next one's really good? No, they're going to buy it because they love the franchise, or they're not going to buy it because their friends who also play Resident Evil said it was bad. And I think the only reason why people look up traditional gaming media reviews is it going to run well? Is it going to come out on the console that I own? Is it going to, are they fulfilling the promises that they made in the game, right? Like, are they going to follow through on things that were shown in trailers? That's it. Like, is it going to work? And that's stuff that's easily better covered by video content, right? Like John's Mortal Kombat stuff, you know what I mean? I could read an article about how Mortal Kombat looks bad all day long. That might not sway me, but when I see a video of what it actually looks like, that's probably going to be what turns me off of the game. Like, be like, oh, maybe buying this, next generation game on the Switch, maybe it's not the best idea. But again, most people are probably going to get that information somewhere else. The only reason why you're going to look that up is if like you haven't gotten that information somewhere else, and you just need to know, right? And that's why there's just such that focus on SEO optimization for these organizations, because like you're trying to catch that 10% of people who are asking those questions and making sure that your little clickable article is up on top there. So I do not think that I've always wondered who is actually watching the IGN YouTube account, who's actually, engaging, who's liking their tweets, like who does, like, I want to meet these people. Like, what I would love to ask them that question, because I don't know anybody in my life personally that goes to, or online, everybody I've met through content creation. I don't think I know any single person who goes out of their way to read gaming media, as opposed to maybe I have a question that they could answer and I'm going to Google it. Or maybe I see something on Twitter that makes me mad, I want to click on it. Or maybe I see something cool on Twitter, I'm going to click on it. But again, I don't know how they're getting these numbers. Like, I don't know who's liking all this stuff, because there must be diehard people out there that are, obsessed with these publications where they're reading everything. There has to be. I've never met them. I'd love to meet them one day.
What happened to traditional journalism? Like Johnny was talking last week that you do a lot of sleuthing and you do your research, and it takes weeks
investigative
to prepare.
reporting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's gone.
To be fair, there are people still doing that in the industry. There are few and far between. And if you're taking 3 weeks to investigate a story, like Jason Schreier, someone that I brought up earlier, but he does that's his whole shtick, right? He's researching into, shady practices by game developers or gaming publishers and stuff. And he's done a lot of investigative stuff in the industry, but he's in a position where he's like at the top of his career and he can spend 3 weeks working on a piece. No one in the gaming journalism that you get the standard time frame that you get to write 1,000-word article is like 4 hours. So in a 8-hour workday, you're probably writing 2 separate articles. Whether or not they're good, that we'll let other people be the judge. But you just don't have that time or the resources in a traditional setting, right? And how do you get that investigative scoop, right? You have to. Now you're accusing a company of something. Let's say the Activision Blizzard stuff. That stuff broke maybe 2 years ago at this point. But really, really, really shady stuff from Bobby Kotick, the CEO, and just like the structural organization was really bad and very misogynistic, and to the point where bad things happen. Okay, you are diving deep into this industry and this specific publisher, and they just happen to make Call of Duty, and they happen to make Diablo, and they happen to make these Overwatch and these giant franchises that you will need access to those games. You will need access to people from that company to do interviews with. You are, going to make content around that game, and you don't want to make it harder for yourself to do that. So I think that there's a little bit of not trying to ruffle feathers in the industry. People always say that gaming publications and gaming publishers and developers are like neck and neck, or they're at odds with each other. It is a symbiotic relationship, right? They get the games, they make content around the games, the content goes out to the people, and that may make them decide to actually get the game. It's part of a marketing cycle. And people maybe don't want to disrupt this. Again, I'm not speaking from experience. At this point, I'm now speculating. Okay. People might not want to make enemies of, studios and stuff like that. And like most of the bad things happening in gaming studios is underpaid, overworked, and that Game Crunch has been pretty well covered. But again, you just don't have the same type of turnaround time like a traditional media, like let's say the New York Times or someone. If I'm investigating like this criminal activity or this person who's doing something bad but it's not really well known about, as opposed to like, well, you got to make 1 million articles about where you can find all the Korax and Tears of the Kingdom. I'm so sorry. You do not have time to, investigate sexual harassment at Activision Blizzard, because we need to make a guide for every single shrine. How else are people going to figure that out? I just feel like at the executive level, the vision is not to uncover stories, because who cares? Why would you spend 3 weeks uncovering the story when I could make a Starfield review and make the title really clickbait, and it's going to get way more engagement anyways.
Yeah.
It's an unfortunate truth, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because with a topic like what you brought up, that is something that should be covered more than, a shrine walkthrough. But again, and like, I'm not saying I don't care. I think it's a very important topic, and that it was talked about. There are going to be people that just do not care about that side of gaming, which is terrible, because those are the games that you're playing, and like the people that are making them are being abused. And but yeah, then there's just some that are like, don't care, just talk about the game.
I think there's more people like that than we are willing to admit. I think us here and people, especially people that create content, can really look at the industry and be like, man, there's way more to this than just like getting clicks. At the end of the day, like you do want to do something with it. You do want to, make an impact, or you do want to uncover something, or, make people feel good, or make people aware of something. I can even make the case that John's Mortal Kombat video, like you could say, I just wanted people to know. Okay. I just wanted people to know that this is what you're getting into. And that's something that, people just care about the game, and they don't care around the ecosystem around it, where what led up to Mortal Kombat being released like that, you know what I mean? Like at the executive level, like did they just not care that it was going to come out to Switch. Like I would be much more interested. No offense to John, I liked your videos, okay, but I personally would be much more interested in learning like where did that go wrong? Like it was the original pitch. Was someone in that meeting be like, we should not put this game on the Switch, please, 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 please don't do it. It's going to ruin our reputation. Like I would.
All right, I'm going to go into a 3-week deep dive. I'm going to interview some people at NetherRealm and
honestly,
talk to Ed Boon.
You could probably, if you like put your metrics, be like, listen, I can give you the redemption story that you need. Okay, all you got to do is give me a one-on-one interview.
You have the funniest. You can do the funniest thing right now.
Yeah, you could do the funniest thing. But like, isn't that is interesting? I'm not saying John's point of view wasn't interesting, but like that's the stuff that we're not seeing. You know what I mean? I personally think IGN saw your video, John. They were like, "Oh, people hate this game. We're gonna kick it into the dirt." And they did exactly what you did. Instead of being like, "Why don't we use our $1 million resources and get to the bottom of this?" Nope, that's too expensive. All right, let's just kick this game harder and faster, like that, and more than anyone's ever seen before. And we're gonna do that for every game that comes out. And we're gonna compare Starfield to Cyberpunk. Why? It doesn't matter why. Okay, these are two games that come out, and we have to tie them together at some point.
And the sad fact of the matter is, that huge story of Activision broke 2 years ago, right? Well, there's not many people talking about it now, and even back when it came out, it was probably like a week, maybe. And then it just kind of fell off of the news cycle. Kotick is still at Activision. He's going to make millions and millions of dollars off of this Microsoft deal.
He's never have to work again.
Sort of talked about it at the Game Awards.
Yeah, sort of. You know what I mean? Jeff Keighley's in a very, very interesting position. The way that he is hosting this event and then has very serious ties. I respect the man. I would never want to walk in his shoes for a day. I could not handle that stress. But I do think, and when that story broke over the summer, I personally don't play Activision Blizzard games at the moment. I don't play Call of Duty. I did do a advertisement for Diablo 4. Okay, so I've broken my own little pact of trying to support good companies that are doing good things, but I just generally don't want to give them my money until I know that there's some sort of restructuring. And that's why a lot of people did support the Activision Blizzard deal, because they're just like, well, Microsoft will probably fire them once they get it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, after they give them $30 million or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And did anyone get arrested? Did anyone go on trial? No. Like, there was serious allegations that came out of that, and just absolutely insane that, I'd say the majority of gamers, I'm saying that in a derogatory way, just don't care about anything besides the final product. They don't care about the QA people unionizing. They don't care about how, it's one of the lowest paid technical industries in the world. They don't care about how the crunch that goes into some of these games and how, gamers are, I read a thing about how game devs, like, after you've worked on 3 AAA games, like, you basically just have to move to indie, or you just have to do something else because you won't have a life.
The strike, they might strike. I think SAG approved, or 98% approved the strike for video games. So I doubt that anybody's actually going to care. Like, that's the one thing that us as creators will probably think about, like, hey, what's going to be crossing the picket line? Like, I don't really want to cover these games because I don't want to do anything that would hurt the industry. But people aren't going to care. They're still going to buy the games. Still going to.
But what's the best way that journalism should be talking about that? If it does happen.
Specifically, I would hope. Okay, I would hope, because I have a lot of hope in my heart, whether or not it's true or not. I would hope that the gaming publications would stand with the union, and once the union has declared what they are striking and what particular games or television shows, and a lot of these websites like Kotaku, Polygon, not IGN. IGN probably has this. They've already fallen in line with some of them. Have fallen in. I think Polygon actually specifically has. They've already fallen into, we're not going to cover strike shows. Like, we're not going to cover new stuff that's coming out. We're not going to cover new movies. And that's been really good. And but that's a very small portion of what their traffic is. Like Polygon is mostly known for video games, so like
Right.
if they have to not talk about certain video games that are coming out, I could see that being a colossal money, the colossal money deficit. And I don't know the books on these organizations, but like the reason why they're doing all these clickbait titles is like they need money, they need clicks, like they will take definitely a chunk of change out of their wallet. And I would hope that they would fall in line. And because I personally am gonna, if they do strike, I'm gonna make a video on TikTok, me like, these are the games that are struck. I won't talk about these games. Let's talk about indies for the next 3 months, like until something is
it's
made.
a great opportunity. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing, is there's always going to be like, oh, that's a bummer, I can't talk about this thing, but that opens the gates for other opportunities. And for you to, like you said, talk about indies. Like people need to know more about indies, like Hades and Enter the Gungeon and
Vampire Survivors.
Yeah,
sure.
I think everyone knows about that at this point. I have kids in high school. They're like, "Mister, you ever played Vampire Survivors?" Like, oh, I'm well aware.
I don't know. I sold DVD collector on it. They didn't know about it.
But just to kind of reiterate that, like, it is a really good chance for people to change up their content that they're making, but also there's going to be a ton of people that don't. And the people I feel actually bad about, I don't feel bad about content creators that want to cross the line, even if you're not a part of the union. I feel bad for the game devs. If they have a game that's coming out that they've worked on for a few years and then no one gets to talk about it, like the only people that lose right now are going to be the people that are working on games. But it's going to be for the better, because the gaming industry as a whole, I know this is not the topic of the episode, something needs to change that industry because it's very unsustainable.
You're giving us topics.
Yeah. Did you the studio that made Immortals of Avium, right? A game that you've probably never heard of, but it was basically a AAA launch this year. It was a game that launched a little bit ago. It just terrible year to launch a new IP. There's so much stuff coming out. That was their first chance at releasing a game. And it didn't sell very well. And then they laid off like half their staff because they're like, sorry, we swung and we missed. Good luck out there. It's just not a sustainable industry, especially for creating new IPs, new, titles. Why would you create a new IP when I could make God of War go nuts?
Yeah. I mean, I think Liza P, I think is getting a lot of good press right now,
Yeah.
but also that I don't know if Pinocchio is a large pull, but like it does have an IP behind it. But I think it's their first game, right? That developer's first game.
I believe so.
And since it's on Game Pass, everybody's playing it and talking about it. So I think there are ways you could go about it, but yeah, it is difficult to come out on top.
Yeah, Liza P is the outlier for this year because, I mean, Pikmin came out, like, just think about all the good games that came out this year, and a lot of them are sequels or part of a series where it's like, man, I actually do like the Pikmin franchise. I haven't played Pikmin 4 yet, but just too many games. But again, like, why am I going to take a risk on this game called Immortals of Avium? Like, when I know Pikmin 4 is coming out, like, I know I'm going to like that game,
Yeah.
We're in a recession. Everything's inflating, like, paying $70 for a game that you might not like that's too high of a risk.
No, not in this economy.
Yeah,
it's just I go back and forth on the whole IP thing, because I think even though it sucks that studio took a chance and it didn't work out, like good on them for trying, and because that could have been the next big thing, and like I think about that with Nintendo, like they had ARMS, and ARMS was fun. Like the character designs were great, the music was awesome, great lobbies, but then they did like shut it down too quickly, and like we really haven't seen a new IP since. Like I guess you could say Ring Fit Adventure is their newest IP, but
you keep forgetting about 1-2 Switch, so
oh right, yeah.
To be fair, I forgot about that game too. So
we're around an hour and 20 minutes, so we're gonna wrap it up here.
Yeah, I get up in 5 hours, guys. So yeah,
yeah, my bad.
no, you're good. I just have teacher, very early day. But just to preface one point I made earlier, that the people who made Immortals of Avium is owned by EA. You know, so boo EA, but it's a new studio called Descendant Studios. And it's like they had one chance. You basically have one chance to launch a new AAA IP in this climate. And if that doesn't go well, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for taking the time. I know it's late. You're probably on the East Coast like me.
We can wrap it up. We can take a few minutes if there's anything else. But
this was a great conversation. It was good to hear it from somebody that knows more about it than we do. Do you have
maybe not in the space, but at least you have the love for it, and again, you just want to see it do better.
Yeah, as like a long-time consumer. Like that's how I'm going to brand myself. Is like I've been a long-time consumer. I'm just very passionate about the industry, and that's what what I've noticed in trends throughout the years.
Now, I don't want to step on your toes, but do you have like a launch date for your site or whatever?
Not as of yet. We finalized logo. We're working on like a writing style guide. And one of the things that we talked about earlier is just like we should have publication-based reviews where it's like not just this one guy's opinion. Like maybe we have a criteria that we rate out of. You know, maybe we don't even give it a number. Those are conversations that we have. We actually have a review system in works where we might not give it a number. We're just going to say what we liked about it and what we didn't like about it. Nice. But no hard launch date. I just grabbed all like the social media channels for our name, but no, if there is you'll know once I'll be all over Twitter with it. That's the only thing.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely follow Zanadood everywhere. We have the links in the show notes and in the description. You can find me, Johnny Bo, everywhere: Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and the Nintendo Powercast. How about you, Cheesy?
You can find me on TikTok, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, YouTube, Nintendo Powercast, GZC64, CheezyC64. Xanadude, anywhere else you want to shout out?
Nope, that's it. I don't make that much content now. I'm kind of on the backside of things as of late. But one question before we leave, okay? Because this is the most iconic part of all gaming journalism. Did any of you guys ever watch Griffin's Amiibos Corner? It was like a Polygon segment, like when Amiibos started to come out, and I'm only mentioning this now because of your name, John. But that was kind of what reignited my passion for it, because it was this guy. His name's Griffin McElroy, and he worked for Polygon, and he would rate Amiibos. But at the end of every rating, he would shove them in his mouth. He would put the entire Amiibo in his mouth. And like some of them he couldn't get in. But I just thought that was like a really fun, fresh take on like a very, very dated industry. So I'm gonna
if I rip off that content now,
it's well past that. No one's gonna. He doesn't work for Polygon anymore. He does the McElroy brother, my brother and me. He's part of that thing. So
so every episode I'm just gonna rate an Amiibo.
Yeah, Amiibo's corner.
Johnny, you are just getting over being sick.
Yeah,
I'll lick some cartridges too. All right.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for having me, guys. I hope you have a wonderful night.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, and thanks for listening. Catch you next time.